Hello. Ooh, we're all off centre. Hang on. Could have sworn I checked that. There we go. We're back. Somebody let me know if you can hear me, see me, etc, etc. My lighting is terrible today. Oof, I've really got to sort my other light out. It's because it's dark outside. It's dark. It's proper dark. Proper dark. Okay, somebody tell me if you can hear me, please. Is there anybody there? Somebody please tell me if you can hear me. Hey! Thank you, Pelican. Okay, now we can get on with stuff. There's so much lag on YouTube. I know it's not your fault, guys. I'm just impatient. What is going on with my hair? My God, I need to do something with this French. I can't decide whether to cut it off or let it grow. Which is why it's doing crazy things. Let's smush it up a bit. And then it won't be in my way. There we go. Oh, there's a massive delay. It's really, really ridiculous. Who's here? Pelican, hi. Mika, hi. Risha, hi. Susan Ray, hello. Pam McCrory, hello. Hope you're doing better in your household. Oh, how are we all doing? God, it's really warm in my house. Last week I couldn't get the heating to switch on. Now I can't get it to switch off. It's gone nuts. So I might have to get up and go and turn the heating off at some point because it keeps coming on. Hey Jane. Drying your nails. I haven't done mine yet. I just broke one. I was going to do my nails and then I broke one this morning. And it broke in the worst possible way. You know when you lean against something, you go to pick something up and you catch your nail and it bends it backwards and snaps it off? Yeah, that's what happened to me. I apologise, by the way, for the state of my arms. It's too hot to put a long sweater on, but I've got some really bad contact dermatitis going on at the moment. I will just try to keep my arms out of shot. Oh, we're doing the ridiculous and try not to itch. That's what always gets me when I'm waiting for my nails to dry. The minute my nail varnish is finished and it looks good and I'm waiting for it to dry, itching. I even do it with gel nails. So, guys. New project. Hey, Rach. This is going to be a bit of a on and off kind of video project. It's not something I'm going to do from start to finish, etc, etc. I'm just like, it's cold, it's dark, I don't want to go out anywhere. It's not warm enough to sit outside in the garden and draw. I'm basically indoors painting and drawing, and that's it. And I need a new hobby. A few years ago, you might remember that I got into quilting, and I will show you some of that in a minute. But that's where I'm heading with this, but in a much more calm and relaxed. Well, for me, it feels calm and relaxed. For some of you, it may just be chaotic craziness. Anyway, before we begin, announcements, etc. Halloween Chronicles ends on Friday, but you can still sign up if you want to come and do it over the holidays. If you're going to be sitting on your Todd over Thanksgiving or whatever, and you want to come and join us, you're welcome to. We've been doing Alice in Wonderland this year, so all different versions of the characters. Christmas Chronicles, because Christmas Eve is in the middle of the week, we're starting a little bit early. We're actually starting in November. So it will be the last week of November we start. And then, actually I think it might even be the last day of November. I'm not sure. It's the Monday. And we are looking at the work of Raymond Briggs, who is the guy who did the Snowman, Father Christmas, Bear, lots of beautiful hand done animations in colour pencil. He was a god in my eyes in colour pencils, and sadly he passed away this year, so I thought it would be, well, I didn't actually, it was a suggestion, I think, was it Tyler suggested it, that he would be a good author, sorry I'm going off screen, he would be a good author to do this year because he passed away, and I thought, yeah, duh. So that's what we're going to be doing with that. Nice relaxed colouring class. You can draw stuff and colour it, or you can just colour. Just playing with coloured pencils and having a chill time. It's exactly the kind of thing you can do over Christmas when you're watching wall-to-wall Christmas movies. So, that's that. When Frogs Sing 2023 is out, all of these classes are available as a pay-it-all-in-one-go thing on my coffee shop. And also, if you are an existing member, so you're already a patron, you're already a member, you've done a class before, we've got your details, we know who you are, you're a regular on the stream, that kind of stuff, then if you want to pay in instalments, all you've got to do is contact Katie, RhomanysRealm at gmail.com, and say, hey, I want to do this, but I need to pay in 2 instalments, and she'll sort you out. It's not a problem. We don't care. Whatever makes it easier. Anything else? I've already mentioned, I think, that next year over on Patreon, we're going to be scaling back some of the astrology and tarot, because we've kind of reached a plateau with it at the moment, where now we've learned a lot and we need to commit it to memory and we need to start implementing it. So we're bringing back planning and journaling and things like that. We're still doing Book of Shadows. We're still doing art. Apparently we're going to be doing some quilt making as well, because that's what I've decided my next obsession is going to be. Sorry, I'm trying to get my chair in the right place. Hey, Bug. Hi, Bug. Hi, Bug. Mr. Boo. My little Boo. Hello. You're a good boy. Hi. What else? I think that's it. That's it for updates. Moving on. Okay, so I've put a couple of links in the description below for Kate at The Last Homely House. Her channel is absolutely delightful. Go and join her on the lime green sofa. I can't tell you any more than that. If you're into cottagecore or quilting core or anything like that, or just nice, chill, relaxed videos where somebody does stuff with their hands while you sit and watch. I mean, she does spinning, she does dyeing, she does knitting, embroidery, quilting, patchwork, all sorts. Go check her out. She's great. She also has a playlist on how to do paper piecing. If you don't want to follow my method, because my method is chaos, hence the Crazy Quilt, feel free to go and check her out. She actually has a hand-stitched hexagon quilt, paper-pieced hexagon quilt. And Anna, who I think is her daughter-in-law, works with her on the YouTube channel. She's learning to quilt, and they're doing, I think she's going to start doing a paper-pieced quilt as well. So go and check them out. They're really great. There is also Terry Rowland has started now she calls it a colour wash quilt, which I think is where you don't have a pattern, like geometric pattern, you just kind of whoosh the colours across. They should call it colour whoosh instead of colour wash. A colour whoosh quilt. I think that would sound better. Anyway, she makes them out of these little box squares, and she shows you how to make box squares out of scraps. Super quick, super easy, especially if you're a machine sewer. Go over there and give it a try. I am not a machine... Well, I am a machine sewer, but I would prefer to do big jobs on the sewing machine. Little jobs I like to do by hand, because I'm an embroiderer by heart. That's what I really like to do. So, hey Cody. I thought I would show you how I'm starting my little project. I preface this with, 1, I am not a quilter, particularly in the American sense. I'm an English quilter. we do paper piecing and things like that, and I come from a tradition of, hey, here's some fabric we can use, cut it up into bits and let's turn it into something. Saving scraps and things, and, you know, old clothes and stuff like that, and just grabbing a big panel and turning it into a cushion cover, that kind of stuff. Salvaging. So if you've got lots of scraps, or you've had a clear out of your wardrobe, or you've got young kids, they're always a good source of fabric. Grab some scraps and some cotton and a sewing needle and a couple of other bits and pieces, and I will show you how I was taught to do this. Now, it is a bit of chaos, but if you like a challenge and you don't need to have everything lined out in little grids. I get neurotic about little grids. If it has to be perfectly straight and lined up, I get really about it. Whereas if it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up, then who cares? I should also say that while I'm calling this a crazy quilt, because that's what we call it here, this has nothing, nada, zero, zilch, not a thing to do with the crazy quilt pattern that American quilters use. There is a crazy quilt pattern, and if you need a pattern, by all means go and get it, chop it up, make it, do it that way. That's great. If you're, I like to fly by the seat of my pants. I'll just do whatever. Because the way I was taught to do this is that you don't have to worry about if there's a hole, because if there's a hole, you just patch it with some ribbon, or, you know, a small square or a hexagon or something. Embroider over the top of it, stick a bit of weaving on it, crochet a square and stick it on like a flower. Doesn't matter. That's the whole point of a crazy quilt. The way I was taught to do it is made out of just about anything, and you can do it in such a way that anybody who has a bit of talent, whether you're a hand sewer or an embroiderer or a cross stitcher or a knitter or a crocheter or whatever, you can all be involved. So, hey Tony. So that's what I'm planning to do, and I'm going to show you my way of doing it. It's not exactly how I was taught to do it. I was taught to do it freehand, but I find freehand a little bit too chaotic. Because freehand you have to be able to stitch properly, and I'm not a great sewer. I can sew, but I'm a better embroiderer. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to do it as paper pieced, which is a lot easier for me to deal with. And it gives you some structure as well. It's a little easier to work with. So what you're going to need is some paper. Now, you want some decent weight paper. Kate actually suggests using children's books because they've got that thicker, heavier weight of paper. So if you've got kids and you've got old colouring books or paper reading books even that you can't get rid of because they can't be sold in a charity shop, if they're going to go to landfill, pull pages out and use those. I've actually got a colouring book here that I'm never going to use. I scanned a couple of the bits to put them onto watercolour paper to paint them, but I'm not going to actually use the paper. But the paper is actually really nice. It's just the right weight. You hear that? Just right. It's not card, but it's not printer paper either. It's kind of like, it's perfect. So I'm going to use this, and it has the bonus of giving us a standard size template. So, you know when you make quilts, normally, you make them in kind of a section. So a common way to do it is like 6-inch squares or 10-inch squares, and you do a pattern, and you know, maybe you do hexagons in a 10-inch square, and then you sew all the 10-inch squares together into strips, and then you sew all the strips together. Well, we're going to do that, but we're not going to be using like 10-inch squares or whatever. We're going to be using a sheet of paper because it's a standard size on 3 sides. Let me see how deep it is, and I work in inches, okay? It doesn't matter how big it is, all right? Just round it up. So the page itself is just a tiny bit over 8 inches. So if I tear these pages out and trim off the excess on one side, we'll have an 8" by 8 by 11, I think, or 11 1/4. 11 and a smidge, but it doesn't matter because as long as all those bits are the same width and as long as all these bits are the same width, that's all you're worried about. So that's what I'm going to do with that. So we're just going to grab a page and we're going to make sure it's the same width all the way down, even it up. And this will become my template essentially for the first section of my quilt. What I plan to do with this is to sorry, can't talk and chew gum at the same time. What I plan to do with this is, I don't know why I lined it up along that thing. It's a square piece of paper. What am I doing that for? I plan to make these and then it's a little bit thinner at the end, but it won't matter. As long as it's straight, it doesn't matter. There we go. So we're squaring this up. So now we have an 8" by 11 and a bit inch square. By the time we sew it in, it'll be like 7.5 or 7" depending on how big I do the seams, by about 10.5 to 10. I might chop it down, I don't know. But we're going to start with this. Excuse me, I need to have a drink. So, if you're following along and you want to play with this, it is a little bit fiddly, but it's the kind of fiddly that is just busy work. So, I like to do busy work. I call it my knitting in my sketchbook, where I'm just drawing patterns or doodling or whatever. But I tend to like to spend time doing other things in the evening because this is my job and I spend all day sketching and drawing and doing things. So this is one of 2 quilts that I made. Not quilted yet because studio chaos. Okay, I'm just going to fold it over. So it's the same on both sides, this one. Basic 5" squares. And this is the first time I've machine stitched a quilt. Because I got a sewing machine. I was like, I'm going to do a sewing machine. Now, as you can see, I don't give a monkeys about nested seams or matching things up or making sure the material's all the same way round or anything like that. I just cut it up, chop it up, make it square, fit it. You know, I fiddled about until, because some of these were bigger than others, so I just fiddled about with them until they fit the length roughly, and then I folded off the excess and turned it into the seams. I put some basic jelly roll type strips. I think these are 2.5" strips. 2" strips, sorry, I turned 2" strips, so I've got a 1" border around it. So I just need to actually quilt this now, and as of later today, hopefully, at the latest tomorrow, I will have all my sewing stuff set up in the kitchen where I can leave it out and I will be able to go and just do some machine sewing anytime I want to. So I'll be able to lay my quilt out and quilt it. Again, I've never machine quilted. I normally do it by hand, but I wanted to do an experiment. I wanted to see what would happen. I may just turn this into a patchwork rather than a fully wadded quilt, because I've got another one with the same kind of fabrics. Where did I put it? Oh, it's in my box over there. I'm not going to get up. I just got my chair in the comfy place. This is just the right size for my table in the kitchen. So I may actually turn this into a patchwork tablecloth and just stitch through it. So, you know, a quilt without the wadding, basically. I think that would be fun. And I've even got a piece of red fabric about this size that fits the table perfectly, that is actually checks, small checks, much smaller, like this, but it's printed patchwork, so that might be really cool. And then I can use the grid from the material on the back to do the grid across the front. I think that'll be pretty interesting. So that will be one of my quilting projects finished. Yay! And then the other one, I'm going to properly quilt it. I'm going to attempt to quilt it. My mum says my machine should be able to handle it, so that's what I'm going to do. But this one is going to be all hand done. Except for once I've got big sections to sew together, I might decide to just sew them together on the machine, because it'd be faster, and I might have lost patience by then. But who knows? Anyway, so if you're playing along, what I have here now is a template, believe it or not, and I'm going to chop it up. But now I would normally just go at this with a craft knife, but for the purposes of you guys, I'm just going to do it in pencil first, and then I'm going to chop it up so you can see what I mean. Basically, I'm going to split this into sections. And we don't want any section like this. We don't want this to be less than 1 inch wide. Less than 1 inch. If you've got 1 inch wide and you take off 2/4 inches, you're left with 1/2 inch. That's really small to sew. So don't make your sections any smaller than 1 inch. I usually go for like 1.5 inches. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. If you're not sure how big to do it, see that is a little bit too small. Let's make that just a tiny bit bigger. There. Let's do that one there. Now if you get a crazy quilt pattern, it does kind of look like this, but I can't follow a pattern. I'd rather just chop up bits of paper and do that. I'm going to do a bit of a wonky one there. Let's do something interesting here. Like that. And then I feel like we could do something there. And not too many long pieces here, so let's do let's do that bit there, and let's do this bit here. Now I do have a little one there that is a little bit too short. It is only 1 inch, but it'll survive. It's a general rule. It's a guideline, not a rule. You can set up your new Christmas tree. Awesome! That sounds fun. So now you have, it's a little bit hard to follow because of the printing, but basically we've got a big triangle here. We've got a 4-sided shape here. We've got a polygon here. We got kind of a hexagon here. We've got kind of a house shape. We've got a square. We've got a strip. We've got a smaller strip and a bigger chunk and a big triangle. Can you see where we're going with this? Now, in the interests of being able to put this back together again, I highly recommend that you take a bright coloured pen or pencil or something. Okay, let's use that one because I got 2 of these. This will do. So I'm thinking, how's the best way to do this? I'm just going to number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So once I've got 1, 2 and 3 together, 4 lines up with that line there, so then I know 5 and 6 and 7 fit in there, and the bit on the end is 8, and then that tells me where number 10 is going to be. Okay, and now I'm going to cut it up. This is why we numbered them. Unless you really like doing jigsaws. I mean, I have my mum, when my mum does this stuff, she just chops the paper up. She doesn't even do paper piecing. She just sews bits of random fabric together. And just goes, oh, that bit and that bit are the same length. Let's add that to there. I need a bit more structure, but not a lot. Now, this is the kind of thing that you would normally do out of scraps or old clothes, or, you know, you've hemmed a skirt and you've got 3 inches of hem left and you use that. That's the kind of thing you would normally do. I'm actually just using stash. I've got charms, I've got quarters, I've got all sorts, but I don't have a lot of scraps because I don't make things that have offcuts like this. I mean, this... I will have offcuts with this, but then that means I've got some scraps for the next one. Make an altar cloth. Oh, that sounds fun. Yes! Do it! Do it! It's hand stitching. In fact, an A3 piece of paper would be about the right size to do that. An A3 piece of paper, 11 by 16, 12 by 16, something like that. You could take a photo before cutting it up. That is a good idea. Now, I can't take a photo before cutting it up, but I can do it afterwards. That's an excellent idea. Bluff? Is that? That's an excellent idea. Thank you very much. I don't know why I didn't think of that, because that's usually what I would do, is say, just take a photo for future reference. Now, when we use these, we'll call them pattern pieces or templates, the numbers are going to be visible on the back, okay? You need to be able to see the numbers, so make sure you do it the right way around. Okay. It doesn't matter if you don't chop it up exactly. I mean, I normally wouldn't have done lines. I would have just chopped it up, but that's me. I'm gung-ho. The reason we're using a whole book... Maddie! Hi! What's the matter? The reason we're using a whole book is because these paper pieces, I've always been taught to leave them in the piece until you're finished and then take them all out in one go. I never really understood why we were told that, but Kate at Last Homely House says it's to make sure that everything is the same weight. Now, I understand that from a block point of view, if you're doing a geometric pattern with all cotton weight materials and stuff, but I don't use materials that are all the same weight, so I don't really see how that would work for me. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I leave the papers until the end. You can take them out as you go. It doesn't matter. Do what you want. Okay, so we've got... I'm going to put this back together now. So 5, 6... Nope, that's 9. Okay, so first thing we're going to do 6 and 9, so we know which way up they go. 4 goes there, 8 is over here, 2, 3, Also, when you're stitching these, you can stitch them onto a piece of calico as well. If you prefer to quilt in that way or patchwork in that way, go for it. It really doesn't matter. I'll have to do it with that one as well, so I know which way around that square goes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I'm going to take a photo of it, like Bluff suggested. Excellent idea. Very good. There we go. Brill. So now I'll be able to put it back. Now all we do is cover it in fabric. So I literally don't have a plan for this. I'm going to grab bits of fabric. This is too small, I think, for anything. Yeah, it's too small. So that's going in the scrap pile. And by scrap, I mean scrap. Like if I've got a hole somewhere. Or I lose a piece and if I lose piece 7, I can sew a couple of these bits together and chop it down and stick it in there, you know. But also I'm going to use some of these for Terry's scrap quilt thing. There's my scraps bag. So these are all bits that are too small to use. That bit and that bit I actually don't want to use. I'm putting that with my Christmas fabric. Here we go. Here's some fabrics I can use. I can use these. I don't want to use all the same fabric. I want to pull different bits. This does seem to have a bit of a blue theme to it. Maddie, what? Do you need to go out, sweetie? Maddie needs to go out. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'll be back. I'll give you a minute to catch up. Okay, there we go. We're back. Hey, John. Now that was silly. The thread I picked out to do my stitching with, to baste it, is blue. I picked blue because I said, oh, I never used blue. So now we need to change this up because this is not going to work. Okay. That bit's not big enough either. Why are these bits not big enough? Now, these kind of bits, which are off-cut edges, what I normally do with these is just sew them all into a bigger strip. So if I've got 2, I sew them together, machine sew them together, and then just top them up into smaller bits. So I will do that with that. Let's get one of these. This is a big bit. Here we go. We finally got a big bit. All right. Oh, look, there's a big pointy bit. We've got a big pointy bit somewhere, haven't we? Where's number 2? Number 2's got a big pointy bit. There we go. Number 2 fits perfectly. Well, ish. It would fit that way. Oh, that's the wrong side of the fabric, so that's okay. There we go. That'll work. So we don't want a massive amount of overlap, just bits. Let's take these out of the way. The whole point of doing it like this is so that you can use up different sizes of scraps without having to go rummaging around for bigger pieces or smaller pieces or whatever. You look at the scrap and you go, well, how big can I make that? Okay, so let's do that about there. Where's my scissors? These are not my cutting. These are not my sewing scissors, but it doesn't matter as long as they cut. Please cut. There we go. Okay, put that in the back in the box for later. Let's see. So, if we do it there, we can chop off that bit that keeps sticking up because it's really annoying. I couldn't find my rotary cutter or I'd have grabbed that, but it's in my sewing box, which is behind something else. Okay, let's just trim off these annoying bits. Have I ironed my fabric, I hear you ask? No, of course not. Don't be silly. I just found my iron the other day, which is what prompted me to go, oh, I can finish my quilt. Because the reason I haven't finished doing that, either of the black quilts, is because I couldn't find my iron. And much as I am incredibly lazy, I am not going to finish putting together a quilt without pressing the seams at the back. I mean, you just don't. You don't make a dress without pressing the seams flat, and you don't make a quilt without pressing things, because it changes shape. Okay, so these bits are now too tiny to do anything with. That bit even is, if it was square, it would be great, but it's too small. So these bits go in my filling box. And what I do with these, I save all my scraps of thread, my basting thread, my offcuts, my salvages, and I just chop them up into smaller pieces and chuck them all in a bag, and I use that for stuffing. Waste not, want not. Okay, I was about to say I'd cut too much off that then, but no, I haven't. Okay, so stick that on there like that, very roughly, get as much edge as we can. That should do it. Pin it in place. I've got pins here somewhere. You don't have to pin it in place. If you can do this freehand, you're welcome to, but I'm a bit out of practice. So I'm going to pin the first few and we'll see how we go. There we go. I moved that when I pinned it, apparently. Told you I was out of practice. Apparently there are people who glue it, which I get it if you want to glue it. I mean, if you use tack adhesive or spray mount or something like that, I would see how that works, but there are people who use glue stick. I like hand sewing, so I'm going to baste mine. Because that's what I do. Can we kill the spam, please? Spammer! Spammer! Whack-a-mole! Where are my mods? Whack-a-mole! Okay. Block them. Block them completely. I can't do it from my screen, which is ridiculous, frankly. Oh, there you are. Okay. And oh, stop jumping around. Report spam. Bye bye. There we go. This is the problem with doing live streams where you're like, yeah, I think you only deleted the comment though, because I could still see them. Do you not have the option to report spam or delete the user? Because you can only hide them. You can't block them anymore. You can only hide them. So, I don't know. But if you report them for spam... Alrighty. So the next job involves sewing. And since I'm basting, I'm not going to use a fancy needle. I bought some new needles. Because I'm doing a hand-sewn project, I bought some new needles. But I already have some smaller needles here. These are embroidery needles. They're a bit too tiny for quilting. Ooh, I cut the shakes. Stop it. You have, yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Mika. Whew, it was a bit of excitement, wasn't it? Don't normally get spammers. We're not important enough to get spammers. We're going to get 25 viewers. Okay. I don't normally use knots or anything either, but we will for now because it's just easier. So I'm going to start at this corner because this corner is going to be tricky. This one shouldn't be too bad because it's a square, but this point is going to be tricky, so that's where I'm going to start. And I'm just going to nail press it around the edge of the paper. Start right at the very corner. Tack that bit. And because I'm only tacking, we don't need to be like super precious about our tacking or anything like that. Big stitches is fine. Maybe not that big. So you want to be able to go down on the corners. So here's this corner. So I'm going to press that in and then fold this bit over nice and clean to the paper. And then we can go straight across there, down through that bit there, and back up in the middle. So it's nothing like basting garments. Basting garments is a nightmare. This is nothing like basting garments. Oh, Risha, you're only putting a tree up, for heaven's sake. Take it easy. You missed the excitement. Oh, we had a spammer. Finding love on a new dating site. XXX triple fun. Ba ba ba. I'd rather be quilting. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm folding this down through that corner, up through the middle. Now that's a little bit too much chunk there for my liking, so I'm just going to trim this corner off. You don't have to do this, and it's a lot easier if you've just got a rotary cutter and you can go like that. Trust me. These are my paper cutting scissors. They are not for cutting fabric. Okay, that's a little less bulky now. So we'll fold that over. If you struggle on these corners, getting that corner to stay in, roll your needle up to the edge and fold it down, and then hold it as you take your needle out, and you'll get a nice clean corner. Now that's not going to want to stay, so I'm going to do a down and up in this corner just to make sure it holds. Square corners are always a pain. Okay, and then we're down and up all the way along to the end. Down and up, down and up. To the end. And then this is going to be a problem to fold it over. So I'm going to reduce the bulk on this corner as well. Make sure you don't accidentally chop off your point on your paper. So I'm going to fold this side in first, fold this side over the top of it, like that. And then you should be able to feel where the paper point is. Just tuck that bit in. Points are not a good idea. Stay away from points if you're a beginner. Just use like big blocks. But it's okay if this doesn't make an exact corner, or the corner doesn't meet, because like I said, if you get two pieces and they don't meet together after you've sewed them like this, then all you do is you grab a small piece of ribbon or lace or another piece of fabric, make a shape, or sew it over or embroider over the top of it or whatever. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So I'll sew that off now, and there is our number 2 piece. So the best thing to do is number 1. If I can find a piece for number 1. Let's find, where's number 1? Number 1's the square, isn't it? So number 1 goes there. What would go nice next to that? I like that actually. I think that could go nice next to that. Is this double layered or not? No, it's just really thick fabric. Okay, so that can go on there, and that bit can go in the scrap bag, because that will be useful for one of the square scraps, because that's a secondary project that will be going on. Okay, so number 1, let's do it so that that folds in naturally like that. This is just a square, so I'm not even going to bother to pin it. No need. Once you've got the corner anchored, you'll be fine. Okay, so same thing again. Start in the corner, come up to the middle, rethread your needle. Yeah, I lick the ends of my thread, I don't care. I don't make stuff for other people, and if I did, I'd wash it before I gave it to them. So okay, so this bit again, if you need to do the mitered corner, put your needle down at the corner, fold the material over and slide your needle out, and you'll get a nice even corner. Now this is quite a big corner, so I'm going to do down and up across the corner like that. Maddie, I'll do a little down up in the middle here, hold that side down, same again. So put your needle down, fold it over. You only really need to do that for squares because you end up with the 4 bulk, but it gives you a nice sharp point on the corner, so I find it useful to do. Plus it's a bit fiddly and my hands aren't the best these days for this sort of thing. No, I'm not wearing a thimble because I've got really long nails, so I can use my nail to push my thimble through. When I cut my nails later, I'll get my thimbles out. So yeah, I'm going to set up my sewing station, my machine sewing station. Ooh, ow. Don't bleed on your work. Blood is not necessary. When I get my machine sewing set up in this kitchen, the light in there is so much better because the ceiling is not as high. The whole room is white. There isn't a dark floor like there is in here. So the light goes down and bounces back up, which is great. It also, all the cabinets are white as well. So you get lots of ambient light bouncing around. Plus where my table will be is right underneath the light, as opposed to here I'm sat with my back to the light. And there's a huge window in the kitchen, so I can sit there in daylight, even on a grey afternoon. It's always lighter in the kitchen than it is in here. So that'll be great. I'll be able to... Oh, now I've managed to do that bit. Okay, so this... I can't fold this corner in because I've done this too close to the edge. I should have started in the middle. So I'm just going to snip the knot off so I can go around this corner. Like that. And then I'll just pull this one out, drop this one across, and just do them a quick knot together just so that it's secure and doesn't come out. I mean, I don't think it will come out, but I'll just do a quickie knot. There we go. So now we've got 2 pieces, 1 and 2. Some more scraps of fabric for the pot. You can see why with all this, yeah, bye. What is with all the spam today? Same people, different login, I'm guessing. Mika's got her whack-a-mole out. Two in one day. We don't normally get spammers. Okay. So now we've got 1 and 2. Now guess what we're going to do? Go on, guess. Guess what we're going to do. Have you guessed yet? We're going to sew them together. That's right. And that's how easy this is. Seriously. Now, I'm not going to sew them together with blue thread because I'm not just going to be using blue colours. A little trick. I used to always use white or black, depending on whether it was a light quilt or a dark quilt, which is the standard sewing thing that you do. However, a little tip I learned from Kate at the last Homely House is to use universal grey because it matches everything. And I got some universal grey, so that's what I'm going to use. Now this is a little thinner than I would like. I've had to order some hand sewing. This is for sewing machines, it's not for hand sewing. So it needs a little bit heavier weight. So I'm going to double this, but if you've got thicker weight yarn, thicker weight thread, you don't need to do that. Okay, and I'm going to use one of my long sewing needles. I will put I keep my stuff in these little baggies in my boxes because they're really useful for just sticking your stuff onto like that. So I'll grab a nice long new needle. We do love a nice long new needle. La 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 la. You can get them even longer than these. How do you know what thread to use? It's just sewing thread. If you're embroidering, if I'm embroidering on the top, okay. If I'm machine sewing, I just use normal machine thread because the tininess of the stitches means that it's going to be secure. If I'm hand sewing, I use hand sewing thread, which is just a tiny bit thicker. Or if you're not worried about 100% cotton or whatever, or fanciness, just use polyester thread or acrylic thread. That'll be fine because it's a little bit stronger. But I use overlocking thread, which is a little bit thicker than this. It's nice and strong for holding pieces together because the friction that you get from two pieces of fabric rubbing together on the kind of wear and tear that a blanket would get, for instance, is a lot more than your average shirt that you would machine sew. Okay, so I'm going to get these two secured. First, what I'm going to do is just anchor my thread. Now, I don't use knots when I'm sewing properly. I anchor by sewing properly. I mean not basting. I do when I'm basting because I find it easier to find the knot and chop it off. I just hold the thread like that and do a second stitch. I'm not going all the way through lots of layers or anything. I'm just going into the back of the fabric. Just do one like that, and then I'll go down and I'll come back up in the corner here, right on that little corner there. It takes a little while to get it sometimes because I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, and that means you don't have any knots or long threads or anything to chop off because all you've got is that tiny little bit there. Who's going to notice that? Nobody. I mean, it might if it got somehow caught up and ended up at the front, but now all you do is hold these two together, pin them by all means if you like, if it's easier. And what we're going to do is overstitch, which is just a fancy term for over and over and over and over and over. Oh, this thread's a little bit too long. I got a bit gung-ho with that, didn't I? All we're going to do is go over and over all the way along, but first we're going to make sure that this corner is secure. Now, I don't know about others. Some people sew through the paper, some people don't. I try to avoid it because it dulls your needles. Sewing through paper, anybody who does paper sewing of any kind, junk journalers will know, it dulls your needles like nobody's business. So it's better if you don't. Okay, so I've got 3 stitches in that corner. That'll make that nice and secure. And I'm just going to go along. And this bit here, this flap, because I got it nice and flat, would it help if I brought it down a little bit? Let me, I know it's out of focus. Give me a second. I'll put autofocus on just for a second while I show you what I'm doing. Okay. Okay. Now, because I've got this bit here where I folded it over, but I always went anti-clockwise, so this one has got a second depth of fabric, but this one hasn't. That one's there, and this one's a loop. So you'll end up with opposites each time, and I'll just go through all 3 of these on these first couple of stitches, just to make sure that that corner is really secure, because that's where you're going to get holes. Where 3 pieces of fabric or 4 pieces of fabric meet, that's where you're most likely to get a hole. Now that matters if you're doing a geometric design. It doesn't matter so much for this, because, like I say, if you get a hole, you just whack a piece of scrap fabric or ribbon or something over the top and off you go. This thread is far too long. Okay, so I've done a few stitches there that have gone through all 3. Now I can just go all the way along. Stop it! Oh, this is why I don't like using machine thread. Oh, I didn't double it. That's why it's too long. Ah! Okay. Oh, we can fix that. Look, watch this. So I forgot to double my thread. So I'll pull it down. I'll tie a knot in this end. I hate knots, but we'll have to do. Okay. And go back through that stitch again. Now I've got double thread. Just got to pull it even. Maddie! Maddie! What are we barking at? There's another dog outside barking. That's what she's barking at. She's getting the evening news. There we go. Now I've got double thread. I've also got a knot, which is really annoying. But if I pull that out a little bit and hold this, do another anchor stitch, then I can chop that knot off and it won't bug me. Knots bug me. Because I'm a embroiderer rather than a sewer. I actually learned to sew without having knots. You can also see that this is, because you're using 2 different colours of fabric and in some cases 2 different thicknesses, it's actually a lot easier to see what you're doing. Your stitches can be as large or as tiny as you want. I average about 10 stitches to an inch, except at the beginning and ends, and when I mess up with the thread like I just did. So at the moment we're averaging about 50 stitches to an inch, but regularly I would average about 10 stitches to an inch. But it doesn't matter, just do what you're comfortable with, as long as it's not falling apart at the seams. You know, if you pull the 2 pieces apart at the end and you give them a light tug and you can see your stitches, or you can see gaps. If you can see gaps, your sewing sucks, take it out, do it again. If you can see stitches, maybe tighten your grip a little bit on the next one. You know, just pull your thread a little bit tauter. Oh, this thread is... I hate machine thread. I hate hand sewing with machine thread because it gets tangled up like this all the time. It's really annoying. I'm making some headway now though. See, once it stops tangling up, I'm fine. Now we're getting to this bit where this flap of fabric is. So again, I'm going to anchor that flap of fabric by going through all 3 pieces, still avoiding the paper because we don't want to dull our needle. Whoops, sorry. And then a couple of stitches to the end. I'm bad at hand sewing with people watching. I stab myself regularly. Okay, right up to the end. A couple of anchor stitches to make sure that that end is absolutely... because when you open these 2 apart, you don't want to have a big gap in the middle. Okay, and because we've done all those tiny little anchor stitches, we don't even need to tie it off, we can just chop it. Leave a tiny little bit of thread, okay? Now I'm not going to take all this paper out, hang on. So that's what it looks like. Come on, focus. Excuse my horrible nails, like I say, I was going to do them earlier, but I can't. I deleted the message. Shouldn't be there. What is wrong with my camera? There we go. Nope. Oh, it's focusing on the pattern. There we go. So that's what it should look like. And then... oh, look, it's all tight. No, we need to press that. No, you don't. Okay, do that. Fold it down over your finger. You can just about see my stitches because I wasn't very careful. Maddie. But the point of this quilt, let me put you back on not so close to the project because a little bit too close there. What the hell? Why is that? There we go. Maddie, stop. Let's turn the autofocus off. Take you back up there before you go cross-eyed. So, those look nice together. I like that. So there's 1 and 2. Done. Now we do number 3. I don't think I want to do another blue one. Do I want to do another blue one? Do I want to do a blue one? Sorry. That actually goes really well with those 3. Might be nice to do a blue one. Have a whole line of blue. Or, contrary-wise, we could grab... what have we got in here? Oh, I got some bright pink. Oh, there's that bright pink. I wonder if that's big enough for that. No. I will find a piece that this fits. I will find a piece that that fits to. Let's use that bit of pink. That should be big enough for that. There we go. There we have it. So we can do that all the way up there, which means I can mark that and that. I wish I had my rotary cutter, but I don't. So I'm going to have to draw a line and do it the old-fashioned way. Canadian, hello. These are not my sewing shears. Okay, these are my paper cutting shears. This is why it's slow. Okay, I don't know where my proper shears are. I will find them. But this is what will work for now. Okay, just bear with me. There we go. I found the sweet spot on the scissors that's still sharp. Maddie, please stop crying. You can go out. Go on. Okay. Figure out which side it was we were using. It was that side. There we go. Okay. This time I'm going to treat this corner a little bit differently. I'm going to fold it down and start it there. So I'm going to start it there and anchor it in that corner. And then I've got two flat corners to work with when I come back to it. So that'll make that a little bit easier to deal with. So my sewing needle back on there. My basting needle. I know the good thing about this is that you can do all the template bits first if you want to. You could do like loads and loads and loads of them and then sew them all together, or you can do them one at a time and sheet at a time and then sew the sheet together. You know, there's no limit to the ways you can do it. Maddie, stop that. I'm getting you glasses soon. We'll be fine. Mika, you could make a patchwork tree to hang on the wall. Okay, I'm gonna sew the knot in here. Try and keep it straight. Fabric's very forgiving, it moves around, but you can ease it into corners because it stretches, but I'm just gonna, it's a much bigger piece. An adventure, yeah. The fun thing about that is you could just grab loads of festive coloured fabrics or garments at the fabric shop, at the remnants corner, or even in the thrift shop, and then just chop them up and go for it. Patchwork tree would work, you'd be fine. Okay, there we go, that's anchored. This is some batik fabric that my friend gave me many years ago, and I've been hanging on to it and hanging on to it and hanging on to it. She gave me a whole pack of charm, these, I can't remember if they're 5 or 6 inch charms, and all these fat quarters that she'd made, and they were all from projects, but she had bits left over. And she was going on holiday, and she said, I could just list them in my Etsy shop, but I can't be bothered. So, do you want them? I said, yes, please. So some of the fabric I've got is just old curtain fabric. And others is, you know, nice handmade batik fabric like this. I've got bits of velvet. Velvet looks great on this stuff. Oh, do you want to see what it's going to look like when it's finished? Well, roughly what it's going to look like when it's finished. Because obviously it's not going to look exactly the same. They all come out different. There is no pattern. I will show you an example. And this is why you'll see that it doesn't matter if there's little mistakes or if your sewing's bad or whatever. This is how it'll look when it's finished. So you literally go in, you can do, like, this is machine embroidered. This is hand embroidery. You can do little bits of lace. You can do overlays. You can do applique. There's an embroidered pansy there. That's hand embroidered. You know, just all sorts of things. So technically, your quilt is never finished. Because once you've made it, the idea is you make it, and then when you're wrapped up in it, you sit there and embroider little bits on it. It just keeps you busy. It's busy work. So you make a few of these square things, you sew them together, and once you've got something that covers your knees or keeps your hands warm, you can start doing some more, or you can start embroidering. You could do a little bit of embroidery, do a template, sew a couple of bits together, sew a sheet together, and then come back and do some embroidery. And it's just a constant project. So this one is going to be a little bit too long. It's going to have an overlap, so I'll just chop that off when I'm done. It's kind of like a build as you go quilt. In fact, you could even, if you do quilt as you go as well. See, we call this patchwork. This is patchwork. It's not quilting until it's got a thinging in it, wadding in it, or a backing at least. If it hasn't got a backing or and a binding, it's not ready for quilting. Quilting is when you do the big stitches across. But this, it's more of a, I mean, you could quilt it as you go as well if you do that, and then sew the quilted squares together. That's a very popular way of doing things. I would make the patchwork to the size, to a largish size, because the point is you can use it as you make it. I mean, that's why nobody knits heavyweight jumpers in the summer, right? Everybody waits till September to start knitting their winter sweater because it's too hot. Yeah, I love doing this. This is just slow. I don't have to think about it. Especially with the basting, I'm not doing anything complicated. The hardest part is when you've got two bits that meet together, like three bits that meet in a corner. Like if you've got like 1, 2, and 3. Okay. That little bit in the middle there, that's the hardest part. That's the only bit you have to concentrate on. The rest of it's like, whatever. And if you wanted to, I mean, if you've got one of these with like colours around the outside and you had a centerpiece that was plain, you could, once you've done this, you could actually put it onto a hoop and have an embroidery going. This is why it's useful if you've got like my gran used to quilt. She used to do the machining. My grandma used to knit. My mum knitted and sewed and machined and embroidered. My mum was multi-talented. And I'm I just do whatever I'm told. But I like doing tedious things like this that I don't have to concentrate on. So I used to make loads of templates like this. And then my mum would figure out how to put them together. My grandma would be putting, you know, bits of sewing or knitting or whatever. Gran was the quilter. You made a whole hand-stitched hexagon quilt. That's what got me started on this. I put the link down below. Kate at Last Homely House. She made a hexagon quilt. It's taken her years. Not that she's been rushing to do it. You know, it's a hand-stitched from beginning to end quilt. So I'll just chop these bits off. Those can go in the... See, no bits are too small. This does not go in the bin. This goes in the stuffing pile. Because even if you only use it to stuff a pincushion or something, I mean, you wouldn't use it to, like, stuff a toy or something like that. But if you're just making a pincushion, you know, a few walnut shells to keep your pins sharp and filled with that. There we go. So there's our next one. Oh, you watch her, do you? She's great, isn't she? I love listening to her chat. I've been watching her teach Anna to do her quilt. That's really interesting. But she's making this scrappy colour wash quilt that Terry Rowland's doing. And I was like, well, I don't have any scraps. Well, by doing something like this, I'll end up with scraps. It's been a long time since I've done hand stitching, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I don't have to think about it. Nothing. It's great. Okay, where's my 2 bits? So here we go. There's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the hardest bit is making sure that this bit is anchored, but it also doesn't really matter. If it ends up a bit like that, and then this bit doesn't quite meet, it doesn't matter, because the next one, you just make it fit, and if there's a gap here, you fill it with a bit of ribbon. That's the whole point of it. You just put some brocade in there or something, and boom, you're done. Or put a bit of white across the back, and then do some embroidery in the gap. There's loads of ways of doing this, so it really doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Which is why I love doing this, because I am not one of those people who gets things perfectly lined up. Okay. So, that's going to go exactly there. That should work nicely. So I'm just going to anchor my stitching thread. Again, I'm using... No, it's too short. I'm using double thickness machine thread, but I would normally use single thickness overlocking thread, and I picked up the tip from Kate to use universal grey because it goes with everything and it doesn't really show, so that is a good idea. Oh, t-shirts would be great, yeah, as long as, because the hardest part is you just got to make sure you don't stretch them, but once they're on the template, it wouldn't matter. But yeah, it would be great with old t-shirts or something like that. And you could have the big squares, like if you've got a design on your t-shirt, you could cut that square out. Okay, let's get this hooked onto here near as damn it. That's about there, I think. Yeah. So again, we're anchoring it. Whoops. Oh, this is the bit that annoys me. That is the only bit that annoys me. But it's because I'm using double thread. It doesn't happen with single thread. It doesn't seem to get caught up in single thread. I don't know why. A good, strong, secure corner. And yes, I sew both ways. The first one I sewed that way, this one I'm sewing this way, it doesn't matter. The thing I like about hand sewing is that I can actually sew with both hands. I can't draw with both hands. I can't paint with both hands. I can't even write with both hands. Well, I can write with both hands. I can write equally badly with both hands. But if I'm drawing, it cramps up my hands, and I'm getting really bad arthritis in my hands these days, particularly in my middle two fingers on this hand. But if my hand gets tired, I can just swap to my other hand, because I can sew with my left hand as well. I learnt to knit with both hands as well. I don't turn my knitting, which made it very confusing. Learning to do stocking stitch when you don't turn your knitting, very confusing. This is why I prefer crochet. Because crochet, all you got to do is finish the round, and then you can turn it if you want. You don't have to turn it if you want to. Or you can turn it and just go back the way you came with your other hand. You had that problem working corner to corner on a shawl. Yeah, you end up having to put little charms on and things and ribbons and stuff on the right way round. Ooh. You got a children's single duvet from the charity shop. Loads of fabric in really cool designs. Oh, cool. Yeah, I always look for printed patchwork pieces. Because if all else fails, you can cut them up and use them as patchwork pieces, sew them back together. It's a really simple project for a rainy afternoon. But with something like this, I mean, the French method of doing this is to you rip all your fabric so you don't have edges that will fray like this, and then instead of you kind of top sew it, so you put it down onto another piece of material and you top stitch it over to hide the seams, and you French seam it. And that looks really cool, because if you've got fabrics that have got a fun frayed edge, like a wool fabric or a velvet, you don't have to actually hide the edges. You don't have to turn them for thicker fabrics. You can just have them loose. And then you get texture as well, which is fabulous. But it's just busy work. I just want to keep my hands busy without constantly having to draw. And because it's little bits, I can fold this up. It doesn't matter. Because it's only paper, it'll come out. So it's becomes easy to handle. And yes, I'm leaving the papers in. I leave the papers in till the end. I don't know why. That's just the way I was taught. Paper piecing tutorials in general tend to say it's to preserve the weight of the fabric so that no fabric is pulling harder on the thread, but I don't use the same weight of fabric all the time in my sewing, so that wouldn't make any difference to me. I just find it easier to handle if it's got the paper still in it. But as you can see, it works up quite quick. I mean, it's slow sewing, but it's not so slow that you're never going to finish it. I could probably if I wasn't talking, I could do an A4 piece in an afternoon. So, or an 8x11 piece in an afternoon, or an evening, sitting watching a film. Which is what I want. I want to be able to have something where I can just sit in the evenings. It's dark, I can't go out for a walk. It's too cold and dark to go out. I don't socialise, really. I just want something I can do while I'm sitting watching reruns of the Gilmore Girls. Which is what I'm doing at the moment. Because drawing is great and I love drawing, but I spend a lot of time drawing. My hands need to do something different. My brain needs to do something different. My brain has to think a lot when I'm drawing. Whereas with this, I don't have to think about anything. I'm literally not thinking about anything. I'm just doing. You have Rainbow Bright sheets. Oh! I had a Rainbow Bright duvet. No. My sister had the Rainbow Bright duvet. I had the waffles. I think that's what they were called. I think they were called the waffles. They were like a cross between a Dulux dog, an Old English sheepdog, and a Wookiee, and a Womble. They're kind of all of them. No, not wombats. No, waffles. They were called waffles. I'm sure they were called waffles. It was a bit like the You to Me bear. Similar thing. Lots of cards with sentiments on. I waffle you very much. It could be waff. That kind of thing. Okay, we're coming to the end of this bit now, so I'm going to start catching that third piece of fabric as I come down. Again, trying to avoid catching the paper. Not because the paper is precious and the template is going to be saved or anything, but because paper dulls your needles. So going through all three layers there, the bend over, this one and the pink one. Do a nice anchor on that corner. But don't go over the corner. You don't want to overshoot the corner. You want to stay on the corner. Couple of nice stitches. Secure it. Yonk it. And we're on to the next one. So you can see now, I mean, if you had someone who was... If you had someone in your family who was an embroiderer or liked to do, you know, one of you liked to do straight stitching like this and the other liked to do more elaborate type of stitching, you can see that once you've done a section, you could pass it to the next person and they can sit there and, you know, you're like, oh, okay, well, I've got this little bit of lace, so let's put that across there and hide that seam and sew that across, you know. Oh yeah, it's only small pieces. I mean, you could do big pieces. You don't have to do small pieces. You could take a piece of A4, divide it in three and just put 3 pieces together. Or you could just do a whole sheet and just embroider onto the sheet these bits. That's the French way of doing it. You'd rather fold paper. Well, you know. There's only, I like bookbinding, but there's only so many books you can make before you start to have too many. I just want something busy. It's just something busy to do with my hands, that's all. Okay, let's find the next one. Okay, now number 4 is only that little bit. So that'll be nice and quick to do. Let's see, what shall we put with these? How about that nice red bit? Let's get some, or have we got a plainer piece? Have we got, ooh, look at that. There's a nice bit. Oh, look at that colour. Oh yeah, that's good. Oh, and it's nice and long as well. What's that? Eek. It's a nice long piece. Okay, that'll do. So this is a right angle, so I'll shufty it up in the corner here. Chopped up. So if you're doing it freehand, you can literally just sit there and go, okay, well, if I chop this bit off here and then I'll fold it over and we'll do it along there. We'll do it there. No. Anchor it there, chop it off. So you don't have to use a template. Sometimes it's easier not to use a template. I don't always use a template, but I like the paper. I like the paper inside it, so because I think it makes it easier to handle. And yeah, just because it's material doesn't mean you can't crochet a few squares, and you know, you might, in order to maintain the integrity of the overall quilt when it's done, so, because obviously the crochet squares or whatever would stretch more than anything else, you can always baste your knitting or crochet squares or whatever down onto a piece of calico and then stitch the calico to this. I'm cutting with really bad scissors on the bias. Oh my god. I need to find my proper shears. Hi, Maddie. Hi. Oh, you're singing? You're singing? Hello. Hello, singing. Hello, Mr. Boo. What are you doing? Oh, I think he's waiting for his dinner. Oof, that's a nice bit. I love that colour. Wow. Okay. Now, what have I done here? Cut it the wrong way round. Oh well. If we do that, it should fit on that bit. Oh, it might fit there. I'll just use that for another bit later. Here we go. Doesn't matter because they're all scraps anyway. Whoop. How about no? See you later. I'm not going anywhere. Someone in chat is. Sorry, I know I'm off camera a bit, but I have to hold my cutting where I can see it. There we go. Now it's the right way around. That's the only mistake you can make, really. Which is why it's a good idea to number these, so you know which is the front and back. But I missed that because I was talking, not because I made a mistake. I was just talking and I got distracted. These things happen. Okay, let's baste another one. Ba ba ba. Need coffee. You restarted 5 times, you never worked corner to corner, took a bit to get the hang of it. Oh, what were you working on? The thing is, you don't have to turn it into a project, Cody. I'm only doing it this way because this is the way I like to do it. You don't actually have to do it like that. You could go, oh, here's a bit of t-shirt fabric. I'll chop that bit off. That can go in the scraps pile. Let's see, here's another bit of t-shirt fabric, look. Okay, let's just sew those bits together. You don't even need a template, just straight stitch. Or, if you prefer, fold it over and loop stitch it. Especially if you're doing it out of t-shirt material, it's really fast and easy to do. If you've got one of those little baby sewing machines, it's great. They're great for this. Okay. just freehand it. Because the whole point is that it doesn't matter if it matches up. You just cut a big shape and sew it along until you get to the end. Anchor it. Find another shape. Cut it to size. Fit it in. I would think actually it would be an ideal one for you, Cody. Because all you need is a needle and thread, a sharp pair of scissors, and whatever fabric you're going to use. You don't actually need to do all this. And if you're doing bigger pieces, like t-shirts and stuff, you don't even have to cut them into fancy shapes. You could literally just cut the t-shirts into big squares and just fit them together any old how. They don't have to match the seams up or anything like that. It's a crazy quilt. The whole point is that after you've finished, you go back over it with, you know, bits of embroidery, or, you know, you can hide a seam or hide a hole or whatever with a bit of ribbon or something. And that's an ideal project for a no bones day, when you're just lying there and all you want to do is have something to do with your hands but not think about it. I think you should start one. You could start really easily by taking all your t-shirts that you want to use, laying them flat and just top and tailing them. Like literally just put your t-shirt down flat, cut it off at the arms, cut off the bottom, cut off the sides. There you go, you've got 2 squares of fabric to start with. And then just chop them up as you go. I might end up doing that with this, because I don't like the grid look. And when you work on A4 pieces of paper, you do end up with a grid look. So I might, you know, I might chop the next piece of paper, I might chop up a bit smaller. Or stick 2 pieces of paper together or something, so that I don't end up with A4 page, A4 page, A4 page, A4 page. Hi, Miss Maddie. What are you doing? I can hear you. Another good one for you, actually, with your t-shirts would be the one that I've linked to with Terry Rowland. Terry explains it much better than I do. But essentially, you just have 4 bits of fabric. So you just grab, like, you know, a little bit in the middle, a bit on either side. So you might take that bit, for instance, and chop it in half. So you have a top and tail, and 2 bits on the sides. You make a square, and then you chop this down. You always make it big enough that it's you can chop a standard square out of it. So that would actually be a little bit too small. Maybe we'd use this. Okay. So you sew all those together, and then when you're done, you put your square template down and you rotary cut around it, and you just keep making them. And then when you've got the energy to sit at the sewing machine, you sewing machine them all together. Which is why I'm collecting my scraps, because that's what I want to do with all these bits. You've got so many other things you want to work on. Yeah, it's nice having things that are different, though, I think. There are lots of things that I want to work on as well, but there's also a lot of things that I know if I'm just sat on the sofa watching a film, I'm not going to be working on them, so I might as well be doing this. Ooh, this corner's a little bit of a swine. It's a little bit tight. Doesn't matter. I'll make sure it's secure when I sew it. There we go. I always find that with my sewing, everything shifts. Maybe you could just start small with something, you know. Take all those t-shirts that you want to do something with and just cut the arms off. And use the arms to do little bits. Just cut squares and sew the squares together till you've got a piece about that big, and then you've got an altar cloth. Don't think of it as a big project, just something to do. Or just start sewing bits together and decide what you're going to do with it later. I want to try different quilting styles because I don't use patterns for my quilting. It's either geometric shapes that fit together or whatever. It's not like, you know, there's like what are they called, the fans one and the flying geese, and there's like log cabin. Well, log cabin, I didn't learn it as log cabin. I don't know it as log cabin. I know it's basket weave, where you just start with one piece and you just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger till you get a square. But apparently that's what log cabin is. But I'd quite like to do that, just make 10-inch squares of, or 12-inch squares of lots of different styles in just whatever I happen to have available or whatever I happen to have. And then think about doing something with it later when I've got like 100 of them. You know? Okay. Now we sew this one on. The thing I like about this is you can't lose where you're up to, because you're only working on one piece of paper. So these are the ones I haven't done yet. I could do all of these to this point and then put them in order and then sew them together, or I can sew them as I go, or I can just pick pieces of fabric and just clip them, like, oh, go, yeah, that one's going to be that one and that one's going to be that one, you know, and just do it like that. If you've got no bones, you can just sit and choose your fabrics. And believe me, some days my brain can't even do that. Okay, so this one's going here, like so. So this is going back on there. This one's coming out. This is a really short piece. I'm going to try sewing with single thread, just to try it. I can always go back over it later, but I want to see if this is strong enough just as single thread. I prefer overlocking thread for hand sewing. But I think this is polyester thread. I don't think it's not cotton thread. It's too shiny. Hi, baby. Oh, you're all wet. Was it raining? Did it start raining? Did you go out for a wee and you got rained on? Oh, my Maddie, you poor thing. She got rained on. Oh, hey, Cody. You know what you could do? Just design them. And then you've got templates you can use for quilting or scrapbooking or journaling or whatever you want. Huh? Okay. Hi, baby. Hi, Mr. Boo. Right, let's get this lined up properly. Okie dokie. That'll do nicely. Let's try this. This feels very, very thin, but it might work. It might be enough. It'll be alright as long as I don't pull it too hard. I mean, that's why I use overlocking thread, because it's you can pull it tight without it snapping. It's just not going to snap. Oh, this is quite strong thread. I can feel it giving, so it's slightly stretchy. But it's quite strong. This might work, actually. And of course, the thinner the thread, the less you're going to see it. What have I got stuck to my finger? That's where you're at most days. I thought you said you had t-shirts to use. Old sheets are great, especially if they've worn thin, because you can just cut out the bit where it's worn thin. You could even make a patch for the bit where it's worn thin out of another old. Great for clothing prices. Clothing pieces that are beyond any kind of mending. Yes. Or even ones where you need a whole panel of fabric, you could do a fancy patch. I mean, this is what people used to do once upon a time, you know. This is what people did. You outgrew your dresses, you cut them up and added fabric and turned them into a bigger dress. Or you cut them up and, or you didn't cut them off. You re-seamed them so they fitted somebody smaller, and then they could be let out later. My gran had an entire room full of fabric and knitted jersey and stuff that she saved because she used to turn it into stuff. She was always sewing. It was our Sunday thing. We used to go there on Sunday afternoons, and you know, you go and see the grandparents. There's like a half hour of you being the centre of attention, and then it's like, right, now go away and play while the adults talk. So what me and my sister used to do is go around with a little tin and go around the floor and pick up all the pins she used to drop. And she had this awful black with multicoloured splotches Axminster carpet. And it was a really thick, heavy pile. And she had all these glass-headed pins, and they just used to disappear into the pile. So you had to be really thorough. We spent hours on our hands and knees looking for all the pins. And these days, kids have PlayStations. Oh. This is a great one to have as just an ongoing project, because, you know, you only need, ideally, 2, maybe 3 pieces in different colours. Make a few squares or templates or whatever out of that. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, oh, this shirt can't be mended anymore. Maddie! See, it's coming together. It's going to look cool. This is what I don't like, the squareness, you see. I would be tempted to take this piece and sew it onto there so it was an odd shape. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to show you how to finish. Well, we may not finish, but, you know, how to do the whole thing. Maddie! Oh, look, we're going to get one finally that is a corner. So I'll show you how to do the corner. Maddie, stop. Okay, let's see. That's not going to be long enough. So that can go in the waste pile. Long needle there. Basting needle there. Okay. So, How about that? Yeah, that'll do. Got it the right way up this time. Whoops. Didn't draw the lines. Can't see where I'm going. This is why rotary cutter is useful, because you can just zip it round. I have to dig mine out. What are we on? 7 o'clock. So in 2 hours I've done half a square. And that's including a break and chat at the beginning and talking about what I'm doing. So yeah. About 3 hours per A4 page, I would reckon. Two, maybe 2.5 once I'm up to speed. Because at the moment I'm not up to speed and it's taken me forever to cut these pieces because these are my paper shears. It's a nice small little couch project too, because once you've done one of the squares, you can toss it aside and start on the next one. Or you can just have a few templates. Like if you could do like 5 or 6 different pages, as long as you put the numbers in different colours on each page. So if you've got a red 9 and a pink 9, or a red 9 and a blue 9, they don't go together. You need a blue 9 to go with it. Or a blue 8, sorry. You match the colours. And then you know those two bits go together. Probably like that. Or you can look at your phone photo that you took earlier. That was a really good idea. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That was a stellar idea. Oops, sorry. I keep knocking that because it's so close to my hand. I love hand stitching, and I really enjoy this kind of slow-paced patchwork. I'm not really making... It's no brain work. Like, yeah, I could get out the calico and make myself a shirt. Of course I could. I know how to do it. It's not hard. I can even make my own pattern. But, that's so much work. And there's maths involved. There's no maths involved in this. All you've got to be able to do is count from 1 to however many pieces you've got. Okay, let's chop that corner off. Be really good as a communal project, like not just with like your family sitting around doing it, but like if you know a friend, like I've got to stop saying like. I keep saying like and I'm already annoying myself. Katie does cross stitch. Andrea does machine embroidery. Vicky does hand embroidery and quilting. You know, I could send a couple of these out to each one of them and say, here you go, just do something fun on there and then send me a couple of pieces back of yours. And I'll do the same, you know. Trade pieces. Ooh, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Communal quilts by trading pieces. You'd have to have dedicated people doing it though, because you'd end up... It would be like a round robin book, one of those round robin book swap things where you start off with a group of 10. After 3 months, 2 journals have gone missing. 1 person isn't answering their emails. 2 other people have dropped out. Ooh, cutting it fine there. We should just about be able to make it. There we go. It's going to be easier to go down through that one, so let's come back up. Down into that corner. Just going to do another stitch in there because I'm not convinced that corner is going to hold because there's not enough overlap. So let's just do another one that way. There we go. That'll hold now. Oh, Judabug. Can you hear him ringing his bell? He wants his tea. He wants me to put his tea down. I'll put your tea down for you, babe. Just give me a second. I'm busying. My hands are busy. Just give me a second. Where's Maddie? She's not going to steal your food, is she? Hmm? She's sitting outside on the sofa. Okay, here you go then. Good boy. Okie dokie. So, now for this one, we've got to do a corner. So this is where making sure that you sew right up to the flush edge is really useful. So I'm going to start on the short corner. And instead of sewing from the corner out, which will pull the stitches that way. So as you sew, if you're sewing that way, it'll pull it. So you'll end up with a gap. I'm actually going to sew that way into the corner. And I am going to use a single piece of thread because that thread is actually quite strong. I didn't realise it was that strong. But it's actually quite decent thread. It's only for one section. I'll dig out my overlocking thread later. I can thread a needle in the dark, I can't do it under bright lights. How does that make any sense? There we go. Alrighty, same thing again. Anchor stitch. And that is just to hold it, because you've got no other stitching to hold it. You don't need to do it at the end. But that's just to hold it there while you do this fiddly bit. Once you've done the corner, because this corner here, I'm going to do several times. So come up to the corner of this piece here, and then anchor these pieces so that they're completely flat with each other. Oh, that's too long. Hang on. There we go. My tail's too long now. Oh, come on. Stop it. See, now we've anchored that piece. This is what I don't like about machine sewing thread for hand sewing. It keeps knotting up. I think because it's twisted the wrong way. Now as I sew, this bit will get pushed up so that these bits at the end will be flush rather than getting pulled so that there's a gap. So I'm sewing the opposite way this time. Stop. Okay, so I'm getting to the bit now where there's a fold over on the back. So I'll start clipping that fold over in to keep that seam in. Makes it easier to iron if the seams are sewn down. Got the same on this side now with the purple. So we'll anchor that down as we go as well. I'm going to push that right flush into that corner. Go through all three of these layers of fabric on this side. Oh, come on, stop it. Stop it! Oh, have I got a knot in it? I think I got the tiniest knot in the world in that bit of thread. Ugh. Okay, I'm going back to double layering. this. Okay, I'm not going to mess with that. It's only a really tiny loop, so I'm just going to sew the loop in as I go. Nobody's going to see it. It's on the back. Only I will know it's there. Nobody else will care. What is going on? Seriously? The hell? Why? Why you do this to me? Why? Yeah, I'm definitely going to find my overlocking thread. Oh no, I've got a knot. That's that end. Great. Because that's what we need. Another knot. That's just perfect. Oh, this is really frustrating. Okay. This is knotted up this end as well now. Jeez Louise. Okay, let's chop it down a bit. It's obviously too long. Thread this. We'll get there in a minute. Just bear with me. This is why I prefer thicker thread. And no, one of those little sewing needle threader things would not help at this point. Because can't see those either. Not in the shiny light. Nope, that's split as well. Insert swear words here. Seriously. Come on. I should get some needles with bigger eyes, I think. My goodness. They do have tiny little eyes. I think these I just bought them as long needles, but I think these might be beading needles because, man, they are so tiny. Okay, this is ridiculous. What the hell? There we go. Okay. So I can't be bothered messing with this bit because it's got a knot in it and it won't go away. So I'm just going to tie it like that and chop it off. We're done. We're done messing with you, mate. Thread's not even twisted. Okay, now as I was saying, we're going down into this corner. 3 hours later. So we're going right up into this corner, as close as we can possibly get to that green, but we're not going to sew it to the green because we don't want to sew it that way to something that's going that way. Sew it as close as we possibly can. Okay, so when we open it up that way, there shouldn't be a gap. See how there's no gap between those two? They will sit perfectly together. Now what we're going to do, now get this, this is clever. I'm going to fold it over this way, and because this is just paper and fabric, this is why I like leaving the papers in. You can fold that over, and now you've got a perfectly clean, crisp edge to get this corner here and anchor it in without catching the blue. So we're sewing the green to the purple without catching the blue, because again we're sewing that way, but we don't want to catch the fabric going that way. So the purple to the green in that corner there. Get a nice anchor and proceed. Catch the bit where it's folded over. So you catch all 3 layers and then sew down to the end. And because this bit is anchored already, it's not going to slide down, so we can sew in that direction because it's not going anywhere. It's already held in place. Oh, I'm not having so much trouble with the thread sewing it this way, so it must be that it's twisted the opposite way to the way I was trying to go. Maddie. Okay, so we're down to the end. Sorry, did I go off camera? I got absorbed, sorry. Down to the end, we're going to anchor this in place here right to the edge. Because that's going to be three-way corner as well, so we want this bit really sewn down well, completely flush to the edge with no overlap. Okay, one for luck. And now, see when we open it out, absolutely no hole. Can you see a bit of thread? Yeah. Is it slightly puckered? Yeah. Does it matter? No, because when you lay it flat and you press it down, it's not going to matter. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to notice. And if it is a little bit puckered or you end up with a hole, you just go, oh well, you know, this little bit of pink would look good across there. Let's stitch that on. See, this is how it's looking so far. It's looking good. I love it. It's going to be really colourful. Okay, so let's say you're at the point where I am now, where you want to stop and go somewhere else and do this. So what I do, I'm literally just going to fold this up. I mean, it's paper and fabric, it doesn't matter. So that folds up nice and neat. The next thing I would do is get my templates, the rest of the templates. Okay. Choosing different fabrics, all different fabrics. So I'm going to use this blue. I like this blue. I like that red because it's got the blue in it. What else have we got down here? That yellow is like the green, so I don't want to use that. Oh, there's a nice bit of checkered yellow. That's fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 5 pieces. There's a pale colour. I haven't got a pale colour. And, ooh, there's a nice dark piece. Oh, I was saving that bit. Saving that for another project. Ooh, there's a nice dark red. Look at that. That's lovely. Got 2 reds. That's okay. They're different enough. So, this is quite a big piece. Yep, that'll do for that. This only needs a little bit. Will that fit on there? Not quite. That'll fit on there though. So let's just chop out this bit here. Oh, this would be so much easier if I had my scissors with me. I swear I will get my decent scissors out, okay? I swear. There we go. So there's that one. Let's just double check that that one's not going to fit. Yeah, it's a little bit too angular. Needs a slightly longer piece. So there's that one. Oh, that's got a nice point on it, look. Nice pointy bit. Let's nest that right angle into there. There we go. I'll work for that one. Okay, that nice bright yellow. I love this yellow. I'm not a big fan of yellow, but I do like this. Okay, a little bit. Let's do it that way. There. I'm just doing this really roughly, really rough. Because I'm just cutting out shapes or bits of fabric the right size. I'm not trying to make it fit. You can do that. You can fussy cut it later, it doesn't matter. Or you can just sew it in, it doesn't matter about fussy cutting even. There's another one. Is that for that one? Yep. And then this bit, let's see if we can pick. Oh, there's a nice pink bit. That'll go with the pink and the red. Let's use that. Is that the edge? Yes. So let's put it about there. And note to self, sharpen your scissors. Okay, there's that bit there. And now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. All you need is your needle and thread. And you can take that with you. Sew those bits together. Sew them onto this bit when you get back. Just go all the way along. So that's going to be my evening. That's what I'm going to be doing. I shall complete that. And shall I post, do you want me to post it on Instagram when I finish the section? You can see what it looks like. And yeah, this is going to be our, Maddie, stop. This is going to be my winter project. It's going to be fairly fast to work up, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. And you know, in the interests of not having to buy wadding, what I might do, I've got some fleece, washable fleece throws. They're really hard wearing, but they're plain on the back. They're only single-sided. So I might unpick the edges and sew them onto here and then quilt onto those, because then it's all washable. It's just got an extra layer to it. Okay. You've started a project. It's not sewing, but at least it's a start one. Awesome. What are you doing? You must tell us. You're not allowed to start a project without telling us what it is. Ooh. There's a right and a wrong side to batik fabric. Who knew? That one. Right and the wrong side to that as well, but that fits, so that's okay. And also a candle holder. Cool. Okay. Now this is a little bit thinner, so I'm going to give it a bigger border. What's it called? Hem. Seam. Overlap. I don't know, whatever it's called. Another one for the scrap bag. So I'll give it that sort of amount. Because if it's very thin, sometimes I find it frays really badly, especially when it's like this kind of material. And it's cut on a bias, so that's awesome. That's going to fray. I usually use pinking shears for this. There we go. Yep, that'll do nicely. That one is fine. Crumbs everywhere. Yep, that's the right way around there. This one will fit on I don't like to waste fabric. Can you tell? No, we're going to have to go that way, aren't we? Okay. Get off. Okay, so if I'm going out anywhere, I've got a little bit of this. Because it's paper, you can fold it up, it doesn't matter. Hey, love bug. All you need is your thread and your needle and a small pair of scissors. You can pop that in a pencil case or even the pocket of your bag. Take that with you. Just something to work on. This is what I want. I don't want something that's going to be a massive project that while I'm sitting on the sofa trying to finagle it about. I just want something little that I can keep my hands busy with. I know, baby, I hear you. So, that's long enough to use. That bit's knocked. It keeps knotting up, so that's... Go. There's my kit. A little pair of embroidery scissors. I got a little pair of embroidery scissors. In fact, I've got safety scissors, which is even better because I don't need to cut my fabric for anything. I'm just cutting thread. You could even take an unpicker with you. That would be even smaller because you can cut thread with an unpicker. There you go. That's my little kit. It's a lot easier than taking a journal with you, isn't it? Oh, anyway. So I hope that's been fun. I'm going to post mine. This is what it looks like at the moment. I will post mine when I've got this bit stitched together later tonight. And show you what that piece is going to look like. And then start another one, probably. I'll probably get well into another one. Small? Well, it won't be eventually. But it's A4 pieces at the moment. Eventually I'll start freehanding it so it won't have square edges. But this will do for now. I can do it like this, and then I can sew the pieces together. The lot. What do you mean? This. The little. I'm taking this with me. The kit. Ah, there we go. Yes, it's super tiny. You could fit that in a pencil case or your pocket. I mean, I wouldn't suggest your pocket with the needles and things in there, but a pencil case or something, it would fit. Maddie, stop. Stop. You're being naughty. Stop. 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 It's enough. And that's like, I mean, this has taken, I suppose, without chatting and just concentrating and just doing it, that's taken an hour and a half. So you've got another hour and a half there because you've got the other half of it to do. So that's an hour and a half of work there. And it's all little bits. So it doesn't matter if you only get that bit done and then you have to get up and move, or, you know, you get these two bits done or one piece done and then you have to stop. It doesn't matter because you're not doing anything important. It's not like you're like, oh, I've got to get to the edge. You know, you just stick your needle in and just leave it. It's only a straight line stitch, so it's not going to go loose or anything. As long as you anchor your stitch. I mean, that's what I would do. If I was like halfway down a line and I had to stop, I would just do a couple of anchor stitches and then pin my needle in, and then just pick up where I left off later. Yeah, crochet, a hook and a ball of wool. That's all you need. Until your crochet gets too big. Then you need like a shopping bag trolley with wheels in order to put your project in so that you can continue crocheting with just a hook and a ball of yarn. The project gets unwieldy, but the little bits don't. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna put this on. What should we call this? What should we give it a hashtag? What shall we hashtag it? Let's give it a hashtag. Let's have a hashtag. Rose Crazy Q. There we go. That's my hashtag I will use. Rose Crazy Q. You can you have that too, yeah. You can follow the hashtag if you're not into the art but you want to follow the sewing. If you are doing your own crazy quilt, or you're going to do something alongside me, your own project alongside me, it doesn't have to be sewing even, it can be anything you want. Just use the same hashtag, and then I'll see it, you see, because I'll follow my own hashtag, and then I'll be able to see it without you having to tag me. Okay, and I got a nice little bundle for the... Hey, we're just finishing up. I'm literally just about to go off. Sorry, but you've got nearly 3 hours to watch. Yeah, I got a nice little set for my fibre stuffing. I've got a nice little bunch for my scraps, scrap boxes things that Terry's making. I'm not going to do much with those yet. I'll wait till I've got a decent amount of scraps, and then I'll make a whole load of them and see where we go. Because once I've made a few of them, I might be able to fit them into here. So I could like start with one in the middle and then just add the rest. So there's that. This is done. This can be finished, and then I'll sew that onto there, and I'll you know what I mean. Anyway, Rose Crazy Q. I will put the hashtag on. Hey Meg, yeah, I'm just wrapping up, but I've been doing this. This has been right up your street, because this is like paper piecing. You love this. You could probably do this with paper to make interesting patterns. Oh, hey Zen. Work life, meh. Well, you got a whole 2.5 hours to catch up on. You should come over and join us in Discord, and then you wouldn't miss out on stuff. Okay guys, thanks for joining me. I will see you again, hopefully next week. Have fun. Bye.